they do have guys like Sheikah and Sops who have been in and around the SPL for a while.
These are mostly just members that have been around the scene for a bit, hung out around the top section of the Challenger Cup, and like you mentioned, Sobs and Sheikah, they were able to get a little bit taste of that competitive lifestyle, although after Flashpoint fell apart and other things, now they're just making a banding to try and take up this Gauntlet run. And whether or not it's going to pan out for them, that's the real takeaway here.
Well, Sops looked pretty good during his short time in the SPL with Flashpoint. Sheikah did okay as well. I mean, it wasn't anything awful. It wasn't anything super spectacular either. Lower-end players that needed some time in order to mature and really find their potential in the SPL. Moving back down into the challenger circuit it can be a hindrance for players in that sort of position, or could end up helping them. There's a big test for them up against Allegiance, because look for Sheikah and Sops to be the leaders for the Salsa Squadron team, as Nemesis and RTO, their bans, couple solo laners between Cabrakan and Chalk banned away by Allegiance. A Chalk ban, interesting. It leaves open the Cucullin for Salsa Squadron.
I'm actually not opposed to that Chalk ban, considering that it's probably one of the more go-to picks for the members of Salsa Squadron, actually having a little bit of flex opportunity there for the jungle as well. You'd be surprised. I think at this level, it's more so members looking for those direct ban picks as opposed to what people might view as being best in the meta.
Well, Raijin and Osiris, the two picks for Allegiance. Osiris, a flex pick for them without a doubt, and trying to prioritize Oceans. His God pool has not been massive during his transition to mid lane, and have to see if Raijin is part of it. Is Athena and Soul locked in for Salsa Squadron?
It's not so much the mechanical aspect for Oceans that's been an issue when it comes to the mid lane gods. It's been knowing how to make those rotations, knowing where to position in the team fights, like you see from members such as Ananser or Baskin, who have also made that swap over, but actually had that smooth transition. And with such a brief period of time, it can be really difficult to even that out.
Naja, the ban for Allegiance, is Salsa Squadron not quite sure that Osiris is going to be in the solo lane for Cyclone Spin. So they go for the Erlong Shen, another jungler ban by Allegiance with the Hun Bats. And I think you're right. Ocean's positioning in mid is very difficult, and it's that you're always going to be focused, and there's a very short time period and in small space where you're going to be able to position safely and do damage effectively. Oceans hasn't died a lot in mid, but that doesn't mean his positioning isn't very good, because he hasn't been positioning well enough to get the damage off. But Raijin with the mobility might be able to help him out there. As Hu Yi, the pick for Met Yankee, surprised that Salsa Squadron let that go all the way through to him.
I actually really like this prioritization by Allegiance. Picking up that Hu Yi immediately after the third and fourth picks and bans makes it even better for Met Yankee, because he's going to have a very strong matchup, I would say, against that Kernanos that Salsa elected to go for. And I also just really like how AOG are kind of working with a draft that's not that dual hunter composition that we've seen so many times out of Allegiance, but that all-in kind of focus for ticking away at health for Thanatos.
And Thanatos, the last pick for Allegiance. That could be solo. That could be for Cyclone Spin in the solo lane. We'll have to wait and see. Salsa Squadron pick up Amaterasu, so that tells me that Cucullin likely in the jungle for the Challenger Cup team, trying to upset the 8th seed of Team Allegiance's Young Lad actually using the Amaterasu in the jungle. You mentioned that Chalk might be in the jungle for them, and I just kind of let it go, but Amaterasu as well. I mean, what is this guy's God pool? Is it all warriors?
It's a little bit of a throwback right now, seeing that Ama jungle. Haven't seen it around in a long, long time, but Salsa Squadron really like to prioritize the team fights. If you've ever seen them in a challenger debut, they've really just always looked to have that grouping kind of mentality, which I think is really strong for these kind of newer teams, kind of flirting with the brink of that whole competitive play.
Well, they've got 2 in the mid lane and 2 in solo. Allegiance matching them. You'd assume that Allegiance can have pretty strong clear here in the solo lane as a terrific emblem comes out. Sprint in response by Salsa Squadron to make sure that they don't get chased down by Weaken and Cyclone Spin. Those cleave auto attacks coming up pretty big as Sops and Neil Ma going for the red buff, but it's Neil Ma who's able to steal it away.
And that's just Neil Ma being Neil Ma, actually going for the blink just to take that extra safe precaution. And I can't blame Neil for using that. The blink has a low enough cooldown to where it'll probably be up.
Jump right into this speed buff. Mineral's only level 1. Ocean's on top of him, but good pathing from Mineral, and the shell will make sure that he doesn't fall for the first blood. But speed buff goes Allegiance's way, really taking this early game aggression and running away with it, as Neilma's got to worry about Sops in this duo lane. But look at where the duo of the right side for Salsa Squadron is. They're invading blue.
But both of the buffs are still up for Allegiance, and Salsa Squadron trying to make something happen. Young Lad able to dash away from Met Yankee and Weekend, but he's going to get collapsed on by Oceans.
Young Lad, no relic available for him. Death Scythe hits. Mineral not even interested in helping. Weekend going to claim an easy first blood for Allegiance, as Salsa Squadron just kind of left their jungler out to dry. Mineral doesn't have the taunt, so he wouldn't have been able to save his life anyways.
And Young Lad, there really wasn't anything else for him to do. Formerly known as iFates, that fresh name change there for Salsa Squadron, but not going to be able to help him out for getting away from Allegiance.
Oceans takes a bit of poke from Sheikah, going to return it right back onto him. Remember, Mineral only level 2. Oceans can't get up and over the wall because Sop's going to auto-cancel that dash nicely and pick up one for Salsa Squadron. Now it's them with the numbers advantage on the red buff, which still goes Allegiance's way. ALG has had a couple buffs go kind of a coin flip. All three now have gone red for ALG.
That was a very masterful play by Sops as well, because closing the distance meant that he also get that boosted auto in hand because of having that close gap, and that's just the way that Current works with the passive.
Weekend sitting at level 4 now with that first blood under his belt. This is pretty key for Allegiance. I mean, they get everything on the right-hand side as Neoma's going to blink in and slow down Mineral, who doesn't have the dash charged up, but Met Yankee can't find the stun, so he'll be able to escape once more. The entire mid and right side of the map is really early game focused for Allegiance. They expect to be able to invade the speed, the blue on the right-hand side, to get these fire elementals consistently. If they don't, if they fall behind, they're going to have a tough time. Problem is, that you can kind of say the same thing for Salsa Squadron. This is a early to mid-game team fighting comp that they've drafted.
I don't know about that, though. I would probably have to favor Salsa Squadron, actually, as the game progresses, simply because Sheikah is piloting the Soul. There is some great objective shred, as well as just player shred. Soul does so much damage that I think a lot of people can kind of overlook, because it's Supernova level 5, who cares? But as it goes on, that starts to really burn out health.
And that's where the majority of the damage from Salsa Squadron is likely going to be coming from in the late game. Sheikah and Sops in particular. Young Lad just there as that team fight booster. And Amaterasu really fills that role better than just about anybody. That stance switch that she has between the AoE movement speed for her team or AoE damage, she's pretty strong, as Bruh's in some trouble here. Neoma gonna drop the ultimate, just a little bit too aggressive out of Salsa Squadron's solo laner, and Allegiance gonna claim a second kill, and that was bad timing for them to lose their solo laner because right side buffs just respawning.
I think Bruh had the mentality that his team was a little bit closer than what they actually were. Now, though, they're going to get punished for that play pretty heavily, losing both of their buffs one more time to Allegiance. No chance of even trying to contest those. Thanatos, level 6 already. That Scythe just completely chunking away at health bars.
And Weekend's got almost 200 more XP per minute than Young Lad does at this stage, which is not where you want your warrior jungler to be. Does have that great late game team fight with the Amaterasu in particular, and will provide good frontline for Salsa Squadron, but Weekend, if he can get off to a lead, which he certainly has so far, can really chunk through those frontliners very easily. Death Scythe does percent HP damage, and we talk about it all the time when there's a Thanatos on the map. You don't have to outright kill someone, you just have to bring them down to 20, 30, 40%. And he can take care of the rest.
You just need to make them panic, if anything. And I think that Allegiance have done a great job at drafting a roster where they're going to have multiple scenarios of ticking away at those health bars. You've got the Suns from Met Yankee. You've got Oceans with those Taiko drums. Even Cyclone Spin has the opportunity to kind of just stick to someone with that tether and the auto attack cancels to shred away at the health bars for Weekend.
And that Lord of the Afterlife could actually come up big in anti-heal here for Cyclone Spin, because Young Lad, iFates, he's going to have some sustain by switching stances with that Amaterasu 1, and Sheikah has a little bit of a self-heal of his own, and those will be impactful, one going up against Weekend's Thanatos, but has to be careful. Oceans has to be careful here as well, as Mineral walking near him, but not scared enough to give up these oracles as Allegiance and Salsa Squadron split them.
And Mineral and Sheikah just trying to secure these left mid harpies, as Sob's actually getting aggressed onto by Met Yankee. Might have overstayed his welcome, though, trying to secure that buff, and sure enough, Met's going to take one in hand to finish it off. Sops, though, getting the root out. It doesn't even make a difference. Weekend actually just going into his ultimate just to make sure that the cleanup happened. landed down on the mineral, but not feeling confident enough to follow up.
Love that play there from MetYankee, just finding Sops unawares, and even without the double, triple bounce, doesn't really matter. Sops couldn't quite get away, and Sops had the option to go for the counter pick, if you will, of Jingwei into Huyi. Not really a counter pick, but more of a you can't kill me as easily sort of pick, and instead went for the Kernanos. May have gotten away there in that aspect. Kernanos doesn't have the best of matchups against Huyi.
It's a bit of a counter pick for himself, actually. He kind of just played into MetYankee. Huyi is pretty much almost always going to have that lane advantage against the Kernanos.
Cyclone gets collapsed on by 3 members of Salsa Squadron, but with Oceans and Weaken not far behind, Salsa Squadron decide to allow the solo laner back to his lane as he proxied between Tier 2 and Phoenix. Sops this time going to be able to secure his red, but MetYankee's waiting for him once more. No ultimate for Met this time around, no Ricochet on the mark, but still going to be able to win this boxing trade, even with Sops having that little bit of extra lifesteal from the spiked Gauntlet.
MetYankee able to find 3 in-hands there as opposed to Sops' 1. So that was a fairly strong trade out. It's mostly just a poke war because now Sops has to go into lane with that slight health disparity, and now MetYankee actually feeling confident enough to commit one more time. Wild Hunt going to be expended. Sops looking for that dash through for the extra damage, trying to make sure that he doesn't get clipped by a Ricochet bounce.
Pretty good overall there from Sops, though. He chases out the ult for the Aegis from MetYankee and survives, so I guess that's best case scenario for Sops, is MetYankee's going to be able to hang around and continue to farm up this wave, whereas Sops going to lose the majority of this one to the tower. But look at Young Lad's rotation. Mineral with that Defender of Olympus coming in as well. Sprint. MetYankee has the jump in. There's the shield from Neil Ma, but out comes that dazzling offensive. Young Lad, big damage onto MetYankee, who throws out the Ricochet and a perfect body block from Neil Ma. Young Lad's in the damage stance. He doesn't have the movement speed quite yet, but look at where Shake is going all the way around. Doesn't even need it though, because Young Lad gonna pick it up with the dash, but it wasn't too clean on the gank.
It wasn't very easy to make happen either. Sheikah was actually wrapping around that top end side of the T1 just to make sure, in case Young Lad couldn't find it, that maybe Sheikah would be able to clean it up, although that was fairly risky positioning from Sheikah because Oceans might have been able to catch him out had he gone just a little bit further.
Ooh, Death Scythe just misses there onto Sheikah. That increased movement speed from the Disapparate making a difference. Not a lot of slows on the side of Allegiance. You're mainly looking at Cyclone Spin to be the guy who's going to make Sheikah force out that Disapparate. The slow from MetYankee's ultimate going to be impactful as well. So once that Disapparate is down, that's one of Soul's greatest tools, is having a button that she can just press and say, no more slows, please. I'm slow immune.
Until
that's actually what she says. That's the voice line.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, no, I play a lot of Soul. It's what she says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
No slows, please. And then the other gods say, okay, thank you. And then they walk away.
Come again?
It's a very polite interaction.
I can imagine. I don't think that Sheikah wants to be super polite, though, against ALG. Kind of just wanted to put out some damage instead. But even with Young Lad finding that kill onto MetYankee, the big thing there is that it helps Sops catch up, but it still doesn't put Young Lad back into having that same experience lead as Weaken.
Oceans has to use the Purification Beads off the taunt for a Mineral. Don't know if Neilmo was just a little bit out of range for that shield, but this Geb going to be very impactful up against the Athena that Mineral is running. Neilmo a little bit behind in XP, despite the early invade going his way and starting off all by himself in that duo lane, but has been a little bit more focused on the sharing. As Allegiance focused once more on invading. This time it's onto Sops' red as MetYankee drops the ultimate. Sops return with a Wild Hunt, and despite the suns coming down, Sops able to secure his own team's red buff.
And Sops had actually stripped away the red buff from Allegiance, but now it's Neilma under fire in the mid lane. Sheikah gonna get the credit for that one off of his Supernova. Young Lad, though, having used the Amaterasu ultimate, Oceans trying to get some damage off just to take out Mineral.
Just a little bit of miscommunication so far as Mineral still not in execute range, so Weaken has to back up. Now Cyclone Spin gets taunted underneath the tower. ALG on multiple different pages there. I don't even know if they were on the same book.
That was just really unfortunate for Allegiance in the mid lane. Weaken was just waiting for so long, the entire ult duration from that Thanatos, trying to find the hovering death onto a target, but nobody took anyone low.
Oceans taunts in Mineral a couple times, and Cyclone Spin throws out the Spirit Flail where he expects Oceans to taunt back in, but Mineral was let go because Oceans figured that they needed damage in order to find the execute. So Cyclone Spin misses his most damaging ability at this stage of the game. Mineral's able to walk away, and that all started in the mid lane anyways because Neilma's way out of position trying to get to help a red buff invade that Allegiance had already given up at that point. So multiple different instances of miscommunication among Team Allegiance, and if you're just kind of checking in with ALG without watching a lot of the split, that's a pretty good summary of what we saw from them so far.
Unfortunately enough, you're probably right, Aggro, and sure enough, Met Yankee now spotting out that gank possibility from Salsa Squadron, and Red Buff has just respawned. Can't see Salsa hesitating on this one. 3 members up and ready for it, and Sops now has basically had a red buff for the past 3 minutes.
Consistently picking up that red, whether it's ALG's or his own. He's been able to keep control of it, and I love Salsa Squadron's adjustment. They realized they were losing the right side of the map, so where has Young Lad been the last few minutes? On the mid and left. He's given up on the right-hand side, said good luck. Bro, we'll see you later in the mid to late game, and Cyclone Spin hasn't been able to find a solo kill or a solo invade quite yet, so it's working out for Salsa Squadron.
All Bruh has to do is survive. Speaking of which, Neilma in a little bit of danger one more time. That stellar burst, though, from Sheikah, going to be a little bit off the mark, meaning that he won't get hit by that slow.
Ocean's going for the Bancroft's Talon, was working on that tiny trinket, and most mid laners these days are going for Book of the Dead, which is a little bit more expensive, but provides 100 power, 200 HP, that HP shield. Really, really impactful item. But I like Ocean's adjustment here, kind of realizing that he and the rest of the team, they're behind right now, and they need some, maybe not behind, but they're even. And like I mentioned, this team comp wants to be ahead, so instead going for the cheaper power spike to try and impact the game a little bit sooner.
But it's crazy when you think about it, because it seemed as though Allegiance was fully in control of the map. That lasted for all of maybe 4 minutes, and then immediately Salsa Squadron just turns things around, and that goes back to what you mentioned with Young Lad just shifting his attention towards the opposite side of the map, not wasting any time with Cyclone Spin and Weekend.
Oceans up into the Tycho drums, but can't quite reach the Portal Demon. Cyclone Spin's here, and Portal Demon still leashed. Cyclone goes up on top of it, but Sheikah's ultimate is the one to confirm the Portal Demon. That goes Salsa Squadron's way. Another small victory for the Challenger Cup squad.
And that entire time, Oceans was trying to DPS that Portal Demon, help out his team, but Bruh immediately collapsed on top of Oceans and forced him back out to the mid lane. He actually probably would have died if Neilma hadn't been paying attention.
The Unkili pickup here, Unkile for Young Lad in the jungle. Love it in this scenario. A lot of what Oceans wants to do on this Raijin takes a little bit of time to come out. Throwing out the Raiju, then the Percussive Storm. To silence out that Percussive Storm is a really big DPS loss for Raijin. It also just fits what a Warrior jungle wants to do. A little bit of protection, a little bit of damage, a little bit of utility. It kind of brings everything Young Lad wants, except for that physical protection. As Neilma's going to blink in, find that Blink Cataclysm onto Mineral, who not quite an execute range yet. Now finally reaching it, and Weekend is going to be able to confirm that one. 2 ultimates in order to find the kill onto Mineral. And now Weekend and the rest of Team Allegiance are going to look to use this power play to pull the Gold Fury.
Speaking of which, Young Lad getting hit by that Ricochet and the Death Sight, now trying to make a speedy getaway, is going to be able to dash through those suns, but Allegiance now having basically a 5v3 advantage.
Sheikah throws some damage onto Neilma, and Sops is there with him. Bruh making the rotation over from the solo lane, but look at where Cyclone Spin's coming around the backside of this team fight. Sops and the rest of Salsa Squadron have a ward there, and it's enough bodies to make Allegiance back up. More impactful than anything else in my mind is that Mineral had just respawned and has that global ultimate, could have started to impact that fight very quickly. So the man advantage that Allegiance had wasn't really a thing anymore.
Speaking of which, Weekend already a little bit under half health. Young Lad ready to go in. Neilma doesn't have an ultimate to buy himself some time, so now he's going to get collapsed on. Young Lad getting the credit for the kill. Met Yankee now forced into the beads Aegis, but it's not going to be enough to save him.
Young Lad going to find a double for himself in the jungle. And now that power play, it's Salsa Squadrons. They've got 4 members here around the Gold Fury. Bruh's in the mid lane, so he can help over anytime he needs, but I don't think Salsa Squadron's too worried about it. They get the first Gold Fury of the game off the back end of 2 picks of Allegiance's dual lane.
And bruh, just there for good measure, zoning away 3 members from Allegiance. Well, Cyclone had just started making that rotation over, but still, bruh was able to keep out Oceans and Weaken, meaning that even if they wanted to try and contest that Gold Fury, there wasn't an opportunity to do so.
Allegiance don't go for the usual counterplay to the Gold Fury pull, which is Portal Demon, because it's gone. And it's already Salsa Squadrons. And because of these objectives, Salsa Squadron up by a solid amount of gold, about 2,200 or so, above the 8th seeded SPL team, who really did get off to a good start. They were controlling the right side of the map. Is it just that Sops finds that kill onto Oceans and kind of snowballs the left side?
That's really what it's feeling like right now. It's just that also I think Met Yankee getting picked off by Young Lad when he overstayed, trying to get that one more wave mentality that always costs the life of hunters, it feels.
The greed of the hunters. It's because they never get ganked, Taco. They get all the solo
right
farm.
now, but it just sometimes you just want one more wave. He was probably like 100 gold away from whatever it is he wanted to finish, got baited out by his own want for finishing off that item. I can't blame him for that. It seemed like a relatively safe situation. Hunters in this meta, or this competitive meta, I should say, have really been left alone for the most part.
And that's really a good thing for Allegiance. I think a lot of us felt like coming into the Gauntlet, because Met Yankee had looked like their strongest player towards the end of the season during his return to the Hunter role. And honestly, if you would have told me that 17 minutes in, Sops is up a level and a half on Met Yankee, I probably would have put Salsa Squadron ahead by a decent amount. And it's exactly what they've got going for them. This was the matchup that really was going to dictate this entire set, not just this game in my mind. Can Sops handle Met Yankee, and will Met Yankee continue his hot streak as Mineral finds the dash down onto mid. Neilma's already shielded himself, so he's not too worried about that. And Mineral's the one who takes the most poke out of anybody for going in for that taunt.
Mineral had to commit the dash for the taunt, and when you commit your dash right after following up with that taunt as an Athena, you don't have an escape. Left him wide open for eating that death side out of Weaken. And going to what you were saying about Sops versus Met Yankee, I think it was more so Sops made the right choice. He got caught out early on. He recognized, okay, I don't win this matchup, and then he waited for the assistance from his team. There is nothing wrong with waiting for backup if it means it's going to give you the upper hand in the long run.
These two hunters are very similar in that they have big AoE team fight oriented ultimates. Not many hunters do. It's more single target focused. It's more mobility focused. But this is the opportunity for Sops to really take it to Met Yankee, who's forced into both relics right away. Met's got to worry about the Defender of Olympus damage, and Mineral's going to be able to clean it up with a reach coming over to help out his hunter. And Met Yankee not only loses his life, but both relics as well. Bruz all alone on the right-hand side, and he's in execute range. Needs to worry about Weaken, but gets up and out of it just in time. Will still fall here. Cyclone Spin gets the credit, but Weaken a little bit weaker because he doesn't get that execute. Young Lad forced to dash towards the rest of his team in mid. Salsa Squadron lose one member, but they get the tier 1 tower in mid and in left.
And now it's going to be Neilma actually in a lot of danger. Salsa Squadron, though, not really looking to commit just yet. Young Lad taking up that trade war with Cyclone Spin, but still, Sops left all alone in this dual lane. Neilma's just now starting to make the rotation, but he's level 12, and Sops is 17.
Yeah, this is a 2v1 that Sops might be able to just straight up win against Oceans and Neilma. If you're an Allegiance fan, lucky for you, they don't try and take it. As Portal Demon again the focus for Salsa Squadron, down below 50% HP. Cyclone Spin gets taunted and activates the Thorns, but not a lot of damage onto Sheikah, who has a little bit of lifesteal with that Talon Trinket. Young Lad takes a decent poke, but silences out that Percussive Storm, stopping some of the incoming damage. Salsa Squadron now going to try and re-engage. Sprint popped by Mineral, and Neilma's the focus once more. No one there to help out Allegiance's support, as Sops has kept Weaken busy all day long in the mid lane.
Sops and Met Yankee and Weaken were all in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Salsa Squadron has just been cleaning up Allegiance. Cyclone's been trying to turn the tables into Allegiance's favor, able to take out Young Lad with the assistance of Met Yankee. Now Mineral going to be the next target for Met. He's going to get the double kill there, looking for the triple, but it's going to be Bro looking for his life.
Sops going to be able to claim that one as another kill goes Salsa Squadron's way. They go 3 for 2 in that engagement. Around the back comes Weaken. Big damage on a Sops right away, but he's going to lifesteal up and out of that execute range. They keep the Portal Demon leashed, and Weaken thought about it for the moment, but goes with the safer call, I suppose, to back up. As Salsa Squadron find 3 members of Allegiance, they find another neutral objective as well, and that 2,000, 2,500 gold lead now 4,000, 4,500 or so in Salsa Squadron's favor.
Bruh had his ultimate available. If Weekend comes crashing down onto that Portal Demon, yes, he might steal it. Yes, he might kill Sops in the process, but he will 100% die, and I like that decision-making. But Oceans, though, not in the same kind of favor, actually forced into that Aegis already, but he doesn't have Purification Beat to get away from Young Lad.
Ocean's gonna fall. Bruh's gonna get that one, his first of the game. This Amaterasu jungle has really worked out nicely so far for Salsa Squadron. You can tell that Young Lad is very comfortable on this god and has utilized it very well thus far, and now he's gonna turn his attention to the Gold Fury as Weekend and Met Yankee hanging around this left side. Neilma's here as well. His blink is available, but no Cataclysm for him, and doesn't matter. Salsa Squadron get another neutral objective. And Taco, we've talked about it a lot with this Hide of the Urchin. Now it's nerfed, not quite as strong. Ocean still decides to pick it up, and this is what we always talk about. You just don't get the tankiness against a team that's so far ahead. Weekend's gonna fall here to the dash taunt off Mineral. Sheikah drops the ultimate, but this protection doesn't matter, and now Oceans isn't gonna do any damage either.
3 members actually from Allegiance still trying to make this Hide the Urchin happen, but so far all that's happening is a lot of opportunities for Salsa Squadron as they're looking to take out Cyclone Spin. Sprint has been popped, taunt is good, Mineral able to pull him back in. This Osiris is pretty tanky though. Tower, maybe not so much.
Bruh trying to finish this off, and with help from Sheikah, he will. Young Lad receives the Defender of Olympus as Neilma gonna fall once more. 4 quick deaths for Allegiance's support. Nice double taunt there. Ocean's no beads. Met Yankee forced to use his. He turns and drops the Suns just to keep everyone from Salsa Squadron away.
Did you see that triple bounce ricochet onto Young Lad? I'm pretty sure that's what stunned him out. I'm fairly confident that Mark of the Crow was on the Amaterasu, and then that ricochet just bounced around, nice little triangle, ended up connecting with Young Lad. Didn't do him much damage. It's just one of those cool things to see.
Damn it, Matt, if you're going to hit a cool triple bounce, at least be so far ahead that, you know, kill someone. Like, I can't get excited if it doesn't kill someone.
I still get excited whenever it happens.
Yeah, but it barely did any damage, Taco.
It barely did any damage. Right now, Salsa Squadron are on a tear against Allegiance. They're just shy of a 10K gold lead over the 8th place SPL team.
And this is not the look you wanted for if you're an Allegiance fan, because this team has had a lot of really close sets and a lot of very close games, and when they have these games that go close and they lose, at least you still feel like, yes, you know, they've got a lot of veterans on this team. They can bounce back. They have the mental wherewithal. To have a bad season and then to come into your last opportunity against a Salsa Squadron team that isn't full of top-tier talent, like some Challenger Cup teams with, you know, players that fall out of the league. Look at Cryptic. I mean, that's a team that can play with anybody in North America. If you were playing a team like that, sure, but Salsa Squadron has some ways to go, but they're looking like world beaters against Allegiance. This is going to be tough to bounce back from mentally for ALG.
And speaking of which, Mineral actually in a little bit of danger, forced into that shell. Cyclone Spin still giving chase, but Young Lad, he's zoning away 3 people right now.
Same level as Weekend, but look at the item differential. I mean, just so much HP and protection in that build for Young Lad, upping his mobility as well with the Shield of Regrowth. This is where that inexperience for a Challenger Cup team can come back to haunt you, though. Salsa Squadron decide that they don't want to go for this Fire Giant dance, and I like this call from them. I think waiting and being a little bit more patient is the right move for a team. Even if you're beating a squad like Allegiance as badly, it's still got Weekend, still got Cyclone Spin, it's got Met Yankee, these guys who have been around the league for a long time. They know how to seal away a Fire Giant.
And they also know how to fight into a dispute, or they know how to fight whenever they're on the back foot. And that's probably the more important factor, is that a lot of these challenger teams, when they're up and coming, they don't expect aggression from teams that are 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 goal behind. But that's what you'll see out of competitive players.
Cyclone Spin has to deal with 3 on the right-hand side, but being level 19, he's not too worried about it. His Hide of the Urchin is completed, but no stacks on it quite yet. Really relying on how much HP he has in that build thus far. Not a lot of magical protection for him yet either, as Young Lad will put a little bit of pressure onto Oceans. That Enkile passive popped off for the next 30 seconds, so now Oceans has at least a little bit of safety to use that Percussive Storm around Young Lad, as Portal Demon the call here for Salsa Squadron, trying to get yet another neutral objective.
But Oceans, he's sitting at level 15, doesn't really have a whole lot of damage online. Even if he expends those Taiko drums, I'm not sure they have an opportunity to even challenge this.
Weekend trying to get his own speed buff, and he will. Bruh takes a lot of damage and actually pulls that Fire Giant with that Salmon's Leap. But Matt Yankee's ultimate came down. as well as did Cyclone Spin, had to dash away with that Lord of the Afterlife, and this is the perfect opportunity for Salsa Squadron. This is why you get Portal Demon, to trade out some ultimates, trade out some poke, and then use the portal to come back to the fight. And
already 2 pretty huge team fighting ultimates for Allegiance have been expended, although going to be a slight pause right now for ALG.
And this is a Salsa Squadron roster that can burn objectives faster than just about any you've seen. I mean, Amaterasu's passive, I think one of the more overlooked parts of her kit, but exposing one target, like Fire Giant, like a tower, to extra damage from characters like Kernanos and Soul, who already burn those objectives very quickly, it's not going to take very long if Salsa Squadron want an objective, as it looks like they want the Fire Giant as we come back into the game after that short pause. Fire Giant already very low, and it will go down for Salsa Squadron with no contest whatsoever from Allegiance. Neoma, the lone sacrifice for ALG to try and check if that FG was going down, but he was far too late to defend it. Tier 2 tower going to fall. Salsa Squadron only have 2 more towers to worry about on the map, and instead of going for the right side Phoenix, even with the 5v4, they decide towers are the priority.
There is just so much of a frontlining factor, though, for Salsa Squadron. It's made things hell for Allegiance and what they were trying to accomplish with this Thanatos composition. I can appreciate the mindset behind it, and they were able to execute it a couple of times. It's just, it wasn't enough for Weekend to really get online, get that huge snowballing factor that you look for with this Thanatos pick, and now Allegiance kind of just suffering because of it.
Salsa Squadron decided not to go for the left side Phoenix with Neoma respawning. Still had his blink, but no ultimate up for a little bit. But with Gold Fury up, that being on this side of the map, and more importantly than anything else in my mind, taking it away from Allegiance, who are just desperate for gold at this point, keeping it out of their hands and putting it into yours. I mean, 15,000 gold in the lead over ALG.
This is just absolutely brutal for Allegiance and Allegiance fans back at home. Last hope right now for ALG is that Salsa Squadron encounter that problem that we've seen happen a couple of times to challenger teams, where they just don't know how to close out. But it's going to be rough. They have Sheikah, they have Sops. These are 2 players that, again, even though they were with, their sprees were with teams such as Flashpoint, they still got that competitive experience. They still have that slight competitive edge of knowing how to lead a team into executing that closeout.
And even if they didn't win a lot of games at the SPL level, I mean, to be an SPL team, you have to scrim consistently, and you're going to learn how to close out games and scrims alone against these top-tier teams. This is where that experience can come up big for guys like Sheikah and Sops. So they've completed a lot of power items. I mean, Sops is completely done with the build. He's already upgraded both of his relics on top of it. Sheikah just finished off Rod of Tahuti. Still needs 1 more item, but that one just kind of a luxury. Once you get Rod and you're 5 items deep, you're pretty set as a mid-mage. Young Lad, a little bit off of what was probably going to be a mass immune, but still, with how much protection he already has, barely even needs it. The Salsa Squadron look to push up the left-hand side.
And you mentioned it earlier, Aggro, but when it comes to mental resilience, this is going to be a rough one for ALG to eat if Salsa Squadron close it out.
Well, left side Phoenix already got a 3-man taunt from Mineral, and big damage on a Young Lad, though, from Allegiance. Young Lad going in, looking for the kill onto Neoma, but he dashes out of the execute just in time. Weekend off the mark as Sheikah throws a Stellar Burst for his troubles. Only Bra with his ultimate remaining, still waiting to transform into that rage mode, but Mid Phoenix goes down so quickly as well. I mean, damage aura plus Fire Giant plus full build on your carries means that Phoenixes don't stand for long, as Bra is right in the face of Team Allegiance. Cyclone Spin takes a big chunk of damage. He's trying to get away as Bra's just handling everyone from Allegiance on the backside. Finally, Ocean's gonna bring him down, but Allegiance lost all 3 Phoenixes while trying to handle the solo laner.
Just like that. Look at that sustain from Sops off of this double lifesteal build. That Aussie proc coming in huge for that Kernanos. And already back to full health from seemingly nothing. 3 Phoenixes secured so quickly because Salsa Squadron had every lane pushed.
Young Lad has the ultimate up already. Ocean's gonna have to dash away, so he's gonna send out Neoma instead. Big double taunt coming out of the Athena. Neoma's already dead. Cyclone Spin, no ultimate available for him. Sops falling low, but he still finds one. Met Yankee jumps in order to confirm that kill, and it's gonna cost him his own life. Double for Sheikah. Only Ocean's left alive against 3 members of Salsa Squadron, and Allegiance is 1 game away from having their season ended.
And Salsa Squadron are one game closer to just starting theirs. Really looking for the full underdog dream team scenario of their run